Hi, everyone, and welcome. Today, we'll be talking about the concept of educational constructive alignment. What is it? Let's get started. Okay. A constructively aligned lesson series is one that makes sense in terms of the aim, where we're going as teachers and learners, the outcomes or specific objectives, the general objective. So we know what our aim is as teachers, what we would like our students to improve or develop. So in lesson 1, we work on a specific outcome. And then further building on it, we're aiming for a specific learning outcome, a SMART one, in lesson 2 and lesson 3. Now, where does this all take us? To the assessment, of course. When a lesson series is constructively aligned, there is a logical connection, a buildup from the overall aim and how this aim is assessed in a general objective, and more specific objectives per lessons, or per lesson. Now, this concept builds on the notion that aims and outcomes are related to the assessment, and of course then related to teaching and learning activities. This is a cycle, and it is crucial to follow this cycle when designing lessons and assessments, aims, and outcomes. Okay, formulating aims and outcomes. For example, we have learners' needs, aims, outcomes, and then in-class activities. So we're moving from the general to the specific. The learner's needs, really general. The aims, what we want them to improve in the long term. The outcomes, how we plan step by step to build toward that aim. And the activities within each lesson to, indeed, build toward the goal. So for example, the learner's need is that they can't swim. So the aim is to develop their swimming skills. Well, what would one outcome for one lesson be? Is to get them to feel comfortable in the water. What kind of an activity could we do to get them to feel comfortable? That's our outcome. They can be splashing, blowing bubbles, playing in the water. That activity will lead to our outcome. Similarly, here's another need. Our learners cannot fully understand texts in English at A2 level. So our aim in the long term is to develop their reading skills. In the shorter term, say in one lesson, the outcome is that we want that by the end of the lesson, the learners can infer the author's opinion in A2 level texts in English. So infer, they can deduce or guess the author's opinion. What kind of an activity could we be doing, or activities, to lead them to that outcome? They could be doing a word search with linking words, despite, however, therefore. They could be doing a matching activity with illustrations, recognizing tone, for example, such as sarcasm or happiness. There are specific activities that we can design or find or adapt that will lead to the outcome. And this is what's known as alignment. We are starting with the general all the way to the specific, and it's logically, constructively aligned. Here's an example of a SMART learning outcome. By the end of the lesson series, the pupils can ask their speaking partners for help in English in 4 different ways. So again, we're going from the simple and the concrete, the lowest of the taxonomical scale, to the complex and the abstract, up to creating. Now, what makes this SMART? Well, for one, it's time-bound by the end of the lesson series. The action is observable. We can see that they're able to do it. They can ask their speaking partners. That's observable. It's relevant in terms of the context because it's in English, and this is English class. And then it's specific and measurable because we're talking about 4 different ways. Here's another. At the end of the module, the student can name 3 differences between the socioeconomic situation of the Aboriginals in Australia and the Native Americans in South America. Well, again, what makes it smart? It's time-bound. The action is observable. We can see them doing this. It's relevant in terms of the context. Perhaps this is history class. So the socioeconomic situation, comparing these 2 populations. Maybe this is geography class. And it's specific and measurable. We're saying 3 differences. One more. At the end of the module, the student can underpin at least 3 choices made in their lesson plan in their BO4 written assignment. Aha. So it's time-bound. This is our goal, our aim this semester at the end of the BO4 module. Here's an observable outcome for one lesson, or even a longer-term lesson series. Student can underpin, it's observable. We can read it in their written assignment. At least 3 choices, specific and measurable, and relevant context, or real-life context, BO4 written assignment. Okay, now let's give this a try. Let's analyze whether the following lesson is aligned when it comes to aims, outcomes, activities, and assessment. What do you think might be the learners' results? Do you think the learners, would have reason to complain about whether the lessons prepared them for the assessment? And what could the teacher have done differently, do you think? What we've got here is the aim, to develop learners' speaking skills in informal situations. And we have 3 lessons leading to this assessment. Now, take a moment, pause the video, read through the outcomes and activities of each lesson and the assessment to assess whether we've reached this aim. I think you'll notice that this is not constructively aligned, and then we'll talk about why. All right, now you've paused the video. You've had a chance to look through this, and I'm hoping that what you see is that this makes no sense. This is not constructively aligned. Why? Well, the first thing you want to do is look at the assessment. What do they have to do in the end to pass the module or the course? Okay, the assessment, probably this is a school mandate, or it may be something that the government has, said, that these students need to pass a written test with fill in the gaps using the present simple tense. And there's a bonus writing assignment in which learners are asked to write about their hobbies. Okay, so that's the test. So what's our long-term goal to get them to pass the test? Wait, what? Speaking skills. But the test is written. So that makes no sense. Why is our aim to develop speaking skills when they're taking a written test? All right, there's our first example that this is not constructively aligned. What about the first lesson? By the end of this lesson, learners will have written 3 sentences using a present tense. Well, okay, but we know that the test is on the present simple, so perhaps we should just focus on the present simple. There are lots of present tenses in English. And the activities to get them to this goal: reading a newspaper article and telling their neighbor about the content in English. But again, not constructively aligned. How is telling their neighbor about the newspaper article at all related to them writing 3 sentences? Okay, epic fail number 2. Now let's look at the next lesson, outcome. By the end of this lesson, learners will have spoken in English for 3 minutes about their hobbies. Okay, aside from the fact that this has nothing to do with the written test, what's our activity? Learners listen to a conversation by two friends about hobbies. They then speak about their own hobbies for 5 minutes. For the rest of the lesson, they quietly do their homework. Well, wait, our outcome here was that they would speak for 3 minutes, and now we've got them speaking for 5. Okay. And why would you have them quietly doing their homework when you could be having them work toward the assessment goal, right? And then lesson 3, the outcome. By the end, students will have written 5 sentences using the correct form of the, wait, what? Present perfect? Well, this is really confusing. The test is about the present simple. Why are we teaching them now about the present perfect? Not constructively aligned. The activities, the students take turns reading a text about sharks out loud in class and then write down a short summary. Well, but again, how is that helping to reach this outcome or to help them with the written assessment? So we see that there's really a super lack of alignment here. None of this makes sense or is a logical buildup. What could we do better? What would we tell the teacher? Yeah, and to be honest, would the learners have a reason to complain? Yeah. Imagine they get to the test and then they can't pass the test because they haven't done this stuff. They would definitely have a reason to complain. So what could the teacher do differently? How can we constructively design and align this series of lessons? Aim. To develop the learner's writing skills in an informal register. So we want them to be improving their writing, and not formal writing, but informal. Okay, cool. That aligns with the fact that they're taking a written test, and it's about the present simple and hobbies. That's definitely pretty informal. Okay, what's our first outcome? By the end of this lesson, learners will be able to recognize 3 sentences using the present simple and describe why this verb tense is used. Now we're getting somewhere. What we see is that we're now focusing more on the goal and we're building up from the simple to the complex. They recognize by reading a newspaper article, underlining all examples of the present simple, and answering questions about the usage of this verb tense. Nice. Okay, step 1. Now in the next lesson, we are looking at an outcome so that by the end of the class, learners will be able to remember and apply knowledge. So we're moving up the ladder, basically, or the taxonomy, that they can apply knowledge of the present simple by reading a news report, first identifying so they remember the present simple. They do a fill in the gap exercise so they apply their knowledge with that grammar. Then, in the final lesson, before they take the test, our outcome is, by the end of this lesson, students will be able to write 5 sentences using the correct form of the present simple. So we started off with just recognizing, then we moved up, we built on it to remembering and applying, and now we're moving up that ladder, right, to creating. So writing is certainly creating. How do we do this? The students take turns interviewing each other about hobbies, and then write 5 sentences about their partner's hobbies to be read aloud to the class. Okay. So we've got them writing sentences using the present simple about hobbies. We've shown them the verb tense. They've practiced with it. So they should be in good shape to pass this assessment, right? This is a constructively aligned lesson series. Let's see if we can, one last activity, can we match the aims and outcomes? Read the aims, A through F, and the outcomes, 1 through 6. Try to match these. Go ahead and pause the video and we'll discuss the answers in one moment. All right. What we see is that A, to introduce the past tense, that students can underline all verbs written in the past continuous in the journal article, Shocking Blue. Yeah, this is an outcome that is logically aligned with number 5, this activity. Or this, let's say this is our aim, and our outcome is more general to introduce the past tense. Okay, our general aim, long term, B, to practice obtaining detailed information from a listening text. So that would logically match up with this outcome, that by the end of the class, learners can tell the class what weather to expect in Sheffield tomorrow, so that they listen, for example, to a weather report, and they have to listen for details about the weather. C, the aim is to improve learners' ability to structure a written text. Okay, that's the long-term goal, the aim. Well, our outcome, in a class session, they can use linking words to organize their thoughts in paragraphs in their story. Nice. Linking words are related to structure. Here, the aim is to improve learners' ability to produce correct spelling, and that matches up with using a dictionary or a spell check program to edit their compositions, their writing. Here, to develop redundancy strategies. Well, what does that mean? What that means is that they can use the context of the journal article Shocking Blue to work out the meaning of unknown words. So redundancy is a reading strategy, okay? And here it's being used in the context of this article and unfamiliar words. And then finally, to improve their telecommunication skills, our outcome would be 3. They can book a hotel room for 2 people in a telephone conversation. We see constructively aligned aims and outcomes. I hope this has helped to explain the concept of constructive alignment. Thanks for watching.